This is Dr. Chris's radio show here on the YouTube channel for Radio Horror. Tonight, after our discussion with my other guest about Nosferatu, the original, and the Doug Jones Slate remake that came out earlier this year, tonight we are talking about the 1979 film Nosferatu the Vampire, as has a severely different title, as well as its follow-up film Nosferatu in Venice. This film was directed by Werner Herzog. For anyone not familiar with who he is, a few years ago, he showed up in the Mandalorian TV series on Disney Plus, part of the Star Wars universe. This movie stars Klaus Kinski, Isabella Adjani, and was a complete and utter overhaul remake of the original 1922 classic film for the first time. And we have since had like 5 Nosferatu movies, and there's another one coming out in time for Christmas. The film also stars Roland Topper, Walter Ladengast, Dan Von Hausen, Jan Groff, Rick D. Goer, and many more German actors that I'm not overly familiar with. And joining me to talk about the Nosferatu 1979 version, as well as Nosferatu in Venice, please introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Brian McKinley. I'm a sort of amateur vampire scholar and author of 3 vampire-themed novels with a couple more on the way.
What was your first introduction to this version of Nosferatu from 1979?
Well, I'm a big fan of the original. So when I heard that this existed, I saw it first many, many years ago. And just rented it, I think, on video from Blockbuster and gave it a watch. And it's I don't know, it's not my favorite. So I don't know if we might have like dueling opinions or reviews, but that could be interesting.
What makes it not your favorite?
Well, I think I just felt like it was very kind of flat and lifeless at times. Like it's a good looking movie, and I could see the intent of what Herzog was going for, but he kind of I think he tried too hard to make Count Orlok sympathetic and kind of took most of the fear out of it. Like he wasn't Klaus Kinski wasn't scary. He just seemed kind of pitiable. And just the way the story unfolded, there were moments that I thought were really cool. Like I loved the rats, showing up in the city and the plague metaphors and the people having like a big dinner in the midst of like this horrible plague and moments like that. But it just wasn't as atmospheric as I was hoping it would be. Like you've got this, it's supposed to be Nosferatu, but you've got this beautiful kind of white Dutch sort of castle that looks just way too nice for to be frightening and for a vampire like Orlok to be living in, and just moments like that, little things. I just felt like Herzog was going in a different direction than the original movie, and I didn't quite get the vibe.
Did you know anything about Klaus Kinski at the time this movie came out?
Yeah, I had seen him in a couple of other movies. Respect him as an actor. I know he was had a reputation for being a little crazy, but
A little
everything I had
creepy,
seen him in,
a little creepy. He was crazy. A lot of people didn't like his attitude, things he would do
yeah.
on set. You would probably get fired today. Unions be damned. You would be hashtag Me Too right out of Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. I hear like the one movie that he did with Herzog, the native tribes like wanted to kill him.
Hmm.
That
Um,
Aguirre Wrath of God movie,
the
but
the plot follows the original film somewhat. There's definitely a lot of deviations between the two. Were you able to find a lot of the deviations between the two films?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I had recently seen and watched many times the original, so I was very familiar with it. And some of the deviations I liked, some of it I thought was too, again, it kind of spoiled the mood. Like some of Hutter going over the big, beautiful, like grassy fields and whatnot, approaching Orlok's castle. It was like, okay, it's a beautiful travel log, but it's really not setting me into the mood of creeping horror, dread, or whatever that I think you were supposed to get. He's journeying into darkness to this, you know, forbidding castle. But when he gets there, the only creepy thing there is Orlok. Everything else is picturesque and looks like a lovely vacation.
This film also takes place in 1850. When did the original take place?
I think it's pretty similar. They didn't. I don't know that they set a specific time period, but the Murnau one, it certainly has an 1800s look.
Hmm.
So I think, because I mean, originally it was supposed to just be Dracula, and
Hmm.
then of course they had to change it for copyright reasons and or to try to avoid copyright suit, which didn't work.
One of the things they point out that I was reading up about the film is that the special effect makeup artist who worked on Claus's makeup to make him look like Count Orlok from the 1922 film, which was played by Max Schreck, was Rico Crux, a special effects makeup artist from Japan. She got along with Kinski perfectly, whereas Herzog and Kinski were constantly fighting and at each other's throats.
No, that works. I mean, the makeup is excellent. All of the effects of that Herzog used and Kinski had for the vampire were great.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought the way it was shot, it's like there wasn't there wasn't the atmosphere. It was very everything was very clean looking. It was very bright, kind of open, and it just didn't seem like that was fighting the atmosphere. Like you look at the original Murnau, and everything's gothic and closed in and claustrophobic and kind of unpleasant and creepy, and it all works. It all adds to the atmosphere and the overall dread of Orlok.
A couple other things to point out is that in the original 22 version, they call him Count Orlok, but in this film, they call him Count Dracula.
Okay, yeah, that's right. It has been a while since I watched it. Yeah, I'm calling him Orlok because to differentiate him from Dracula. But yeah, they went to just use the old Stoker names.
There's also a Van Helsing in this movie, whereas the other one didn't really have one. They had a person who was knowledgeable of vampires. I think the Renfield in the other film was called Knock, and this one is Renfield. They went with all of the original Stoker names because they didn't have the rights to do anything, and Dracula was still a copywritten book at that time. It wasn't until afterwards that it went to public domain.
Yeah, yeah. Stoker's widow was no longer around to sue.
Stoker's widow caused her own downfall in terms of her poverty because if she had allowed them to just use the novel, she would have made millions. They said on the copyright for years with the film until she passed away, along to her family as well, because they were willing to pay. They if she had played ball with them, she could have netted herself quite the profit even back then.
Hmm.
Especially how big the movie went and how worldwide release it was. Stoker's own widow did herself in. A lot of people said, and she could have lived very very well, and all of her medical issues and anything like that would have come up in her later years would have been completely taken care of by the money she would have made on this film forever.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know that much about Florence Stoker that you know personally.
The filmmakers kept the inhuman appearance of the vampire played with the haunting conviction of Kinski and the concept of plagues throughout the town. One of the many things that was absolutely, I think, stunning in this film was the cinematography by F.A. Wagner, and also the score for this film is fantastic. It was recently released in the last, I think, 6 years in a double vinyl that has kind of a white translucent with a incredible artwork on it for the vinyl through, I think it was like Waxworks Records. I don't have the vinyl with me, but I do own the vinyl for the 1970s film, including also a novelization of the movie, which is got the movie poster on the front, and then the spine is all red.
That's cool. Yeah, I do remember the score being very good. The music was excellent.
Yeah, I was correct. It's by Waxworks Records. It is out of print. Secondary market versions of the film go for double what the original cost. I think I did pay like the $40 for it, and I absolutely had to have it just because of the way the music is. I'm looking up right now to see who the artist on the cover is. Um, do you happen to have the Blu-ray that came out from Scream Factory for this movie?
No, no, I don't. I have the original Nosferatu on Blu-ray with the special kind of deluxe edition with all the bells and whistles.
Were you familiar with Nosferatu in Venice?
Knew it existed and heard about it, but I've never actually seen it.
It came out in 1988, so almost a decade later after this movie. Whereas, and it's revealed that the that Count Dracula did not die, and it's basically Claus in a wig. That he's it's like he's wearing his Nosferatu makeup, and he's got like a wig on.
Yeah, I think I heard something about he just refused to do the full makeup, so they just let him have hair.
I
He
found out
didn't.
I found out about the movie through like someone's YouTube channel. I was unfamiliar with it. The plot of the sequel goes along with Professor Paris Catalino travels to Venice to investigate the whereabouts of the infamous vampire Nosferatu, whose last known appearance was during the Carnival of 1786, which is interesting as the original film took place in 1850. So there seems to be some continuity error there. And he is summoned there by the young princess Helena Keynes, who believe that the vampire may be interned in a sealed tomb in the basement of her ancestral estate. He believes that the vampire is searching for a way to end his immortal torment and actually be dead. Upon his arrival, he notices that Helena bears a striking resemblance to Nosferatu's long lost love, Letzivia. Now, this film was in Italian, so there's a lot of Italian names, and I do not speak Italian, nor can I pronounce Italian correctly. So I do apologize for the butchering of a lot of this, but this was an Italian film. Um, Nosferatu roams Venice and soon locates Helena's mother, Princess Catalino, and forces her out of the balcony, pushing her to her death below before she's impaled on an iron fence. During the elder princess's funeral, Catalina warns Helena that Nosferatu can only be stopped by legitimate love. During a subsequent carnival celebration, Nosferatu stalks the woman. He soon follows her home and awakens her in bed, seducing her. Meanwhile, her younger sister, Marita, witnesses part of the encounter. The following morning, she informs Catalino that Nosferatu has visited her. Nosferatu leaves the villa with a nude Maria in arms, walking along a Venice canal. Dying, Maria asks Nosferatu to turn her into a vampire. He apparently refuses, saying that doing so would be an eternal damnation, the same he has endured for centuries. They hold each other while Nosferatu keeps walking, and they eventually disappear into the morning mist, leaving both of their fates a mystery. So he lives at the end of his movie, but his movie takes place in 1850, and there's some conjecture about the last time he was seen was in 1786. So it's kind of curious with like his adventures in the previous film, Nosferatu the Vampire. It's just not cataloged, or this is like its own completely separate entity. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean I guess the only other interpretation is that they meant he was last seen in Italy or Venice in the 1700s, because then he like went off to, I guess, Germany or wherever, uh, or Transylvania, and then he goes to Germany.
Mm-hmm. The film was directed by both Augusto Camento and Klaus Kinski.
Hmm, it's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know he had actually ever directed anything.
The original film was supposed to star like they wanted an assembled cast of Christopher Plummer, Donald Pleasance, Barbara De Souza, and Yorgo Voigaris. And this was in 1986.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that never happened, and we got the film that we got in 1988. I don't think Christopher Plummer ever actually did a vampire movie.
Oh no, he did. Van Helsing in Dracula 2000.
That was Christopher Plummer.
That was Christopher Plummer. Yeah,
Oh, geez, I completely forgot
his
about
one and
that.
only appearance in a vampire film, I believe. Yeah.
The Nosferatu in the Vampire in Venice or Nosferatu in Venice. Again, I came across just kind of accidentally and then hunted down the DVD. I didn't know anything about Klaus Kinski other than him being a Nosferatu and a couple other movies. I didn't know anything about his reputation until I watched the 2 hour documentary that was included in the DVD. I found it incredibly fascinating. Just an
Hmm.
absolute mountain of sexual abuse allegations and other like kind of depravities came out so many years later. Um, Paula Kinski published an autobiography entitled From a Child's Mouth, in which she claimed her father had sexually abused her from ages 5 to 19.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Many other stories came out about Kinski in the following years. He died of a heart attack in 1991 at the age of 65 years old. It's only 2 years after this movie.
Right. I do. I remember back when that happened.
Um, Oh, I finally have the vinyl up here right now. Waxworks Records proudly presents the deluxe vinyl soundtrack reissue of Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire. The album, composed by German prog legends Popol Vuh, comes with the Waxworks comes from Waxworks as a deluxe expanded double LP, including extra tracks from the film. Waxworks has worked directly with the family of the late Popol Vuh founder Florence Frickel to faithfully restore and remaster the soundtrack for vinyl. Incredibly detailed new artwork, album artwork, has been commissioned from Jessica Siemens of Landland and is the first officially approved Nosferatu the Vampire soundtrack to be released. This has Count Orlok or Count Dracula holding the Lucy character. Is cape is kind of like this spider web onto the floor with this absolute beautiful like gothic imagery background of like a grandfather clock with a skull on top of it and the stairway leading up and a bunch of like discarded flowers and rats and human remains of bones at his feet. It's incredibly gorgeous. There's also kind of like a Last Supper looking image when you open up the double vinyl. It came in two versions, like a white vinyl as well as a blue and green. Like I said, I do have it. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me. We'll have to put it up in a separate video. It's called Midnight Blue and Gold Swirl colored vinyl or White Marble Castle wall colored vinyl. I have the White Marble Castle wall colored vinyl. It is out of print, unfortunately, and not been in print for several years. I think this came out in, I believe, excuse me, 2016. A lot of Waxworks record stuff. It's if it goes out of print, you'd be lucky if they do put it back in print. I was just recently able to get all three of their scores for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original three live action movies, secondhand at a comic book store at affordable prices of like $30 to $25 each vinyl. So.
Hmm. So
Um,
which one did you like more, the original or the 70s?
I like the original, but I do enjoy this film for its modern update, and I'm looking forward to the film coming out on Christmas.
Yeah.
For more of my review on the original and then the Doug Jones version of the original remake that came out on iTunes this past October, check out my review on the other video. Brian, what do you happen to be working on coming up for a book, or what have you put out recently that you want to plug?
Well, very little recently, sadly. I had a long hiatus where I haven't released any novels. I have three out currently: Ancient Blood, Ancient Enemies, and Drawing Dead. The
Okay.
first two are sequels, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm working on the sequel to Drawing Dead. That should be coming out probably next year, almost finished. And I will hopefully complete the trilogy for the Ancient Blood series. They're the one thing, my three books are now out on more than just Amazon, so they're available on Smashwords, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, other places if people want to look for any of them there.
Awesome.
The
Well,
most
where
recent one.
well, where can people find you on social media?
Primarily Facebook. I have a website, Brian McKinley author at or dot WordPress, .com. Um, but mostly I'm on Facebook under my own name. It's like Brian McKinley 13. You can find me.
And you can check out my first of a three-part video series covering Nosferatu, covering the original again from 1922, as well as the updated original film that was basically a shot-for-shot remake, interposing new actors such as Doug Jones, where Max Schreck would have been in the original film. It's available, I believe, on Apple iTunes as well as on Amazon Prime for rent. And check out my review with about the 20 the Christmas film coming out 2024, and then afterwards a special video reviewing Shadows of the Vampire, which is the film behind the film of Nosferatu,
Oh,
and
that's a
as
great
well
one.
as the other. Yes, it is out of print DVD, never released on Blu-ray or 4K, not streaming either, which is kind of interesting. Or it is streaming, but I don't know where. But I digress. You can find me on here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel and my other vampire review videos, or check me out on Sunday night, Radio Horror from 10 to midnight. And we'll be back with another exciting Vampire Nosferatu review here on the Radio Horror. Thank you, everyone.